Hi, this is Kevin Canfield. Today we're taping our Listen Frontier podcast at the Thomas K. McKeon Center for Creativity. We're going to discuss the April 5th Vision Tulsa vote. That's an $844 million capital improvements package. It also includes economic development elements. And today we're going to have two guests, City Councilor Blake Ewing and George McFarlin, who is an opponent of the package and represents Citizens for a Better Vision. Our first guest today is Councilor Ewing. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us about the package, $844 million. There's three elements. Can you just give people an overview of what's included in it?
Sure. There are going to be three City of Tulsa propositions and then a county question. The first for the City of Tulsa is public safety. The second one is streets and transportation. The third being economic development. So each one of those can be voted on separately. The first two are for permanent city sales tax. The third one is a temporary tax that has an expiration date at the end. Regardless, all three of those are renewals of the existing Vision 2025 tax, so it leaves the tax rate the same. It's just a question of whether to renew that at the end of this calendar year.
Okay. One of the new permanent taxes would be for public safety. Tell people what that would fund and why the council believes it's appropriate to make it a permanent tax and provide steady funding for public safety.
So we've gone through a couple of years of pretty in-depth analysis of our public safety, from police to fire to 911, and have come to the conclusion that even with some outside independent studies informing us that the City of Tulsa is dramatically understaffed in terms of police manpower. Our 911 center is understaffed. We know that we need to be making some more investments into the safety of the citizens of Tulsa. When you ask Tulsans what's important to you, safety always comes, at the top of the list. So this was something that we felt like, in addition to our existing operating funds, we need to be investing more in police, fire, 911, et cetera. So that's Proposition 1. That will fund 160 new police officers, 70 new, am I right on that?
65.
65 new fire. I get my numbers mixed up. 65 new firefighters, additional manpower in the 911 call center, capital for a new fire station in East Tulsa. So it takes care of things from both a capital standpoint and a manpower standpoint, adding numbers to those forces over the next 15 years.
Right. And the idea, I know this was a big part of the discussion, the idea is to add to the level of, when it comes to the police at least, add to that funding level or to that manpower level, not to supplant the existing funding. Is that right? In other words, you're going to get 165 more officers than what are currently.
Right, and that's part of why it wasn't just a question of whether citizens want to increase our general fund revenues.
Right.
The reason it's a separate but still permanent public safety tax is so we can specify that this is for new hires, not for just adding more money to the general fund for future lawmaker discretion.
Right.
This is specifically to increase the manpower of those public safety forces.
Okay. And then we have the second piece, which is transportation and street maintenance. That's also a permanent tax. You're a big transportation guy, and people like good streets. So tell folks some details of that package and why you guys thought it was important to make it a permanent tax.
Proposition 2 has two major elements to it. That's streets and streets maintenance, which funds street maintenance crews just to better take care of the streets, to slow down the degrading of Tulsa streets. It funds things like striping and things like that, basically caring for the streets of the City of Tulsa with maintenance crews to help make our streets safer, but also to keep them from degrading at the rate that they do now. So we hear all the time, why are we building something new? Why did you let it fall apart?
Right.
Why didn't you just take care of it while you had it? And I really do think this council's been committed to maintaining the things that we have, taking good care of our existing assets, and so that's why we've put dedicated funding towards street maintenance, so that to kind of augment the work that's being done with our Improve Our Tulsa program, our Fix Our Streets program, where we're completely overhauling several city streets over the course of more than a decade. This keeps that new street from degrading. So that was important to us. The second half of that second proposition is the public transportation piece, and that funds 2 bus rapid transit lines in the city. That means high-frequency bus lines on Peoria and on 11th Street, one of which has capital funding already, the Peoria line, but this will fund capital and operations for the Route 66 line and operations for the Peoria line. A downtown circulator that both of those lines will interface with, that will get people around downtown once they get there. Obviously the center of commerce in the city and
Right.
the heaviest concentration of daytime jobs. It also funds a Midtown loop that connects downtown to a litany of Midtown destinations.
Including the gathering place, right? It's
18th and Boulder, the Gathering Place, Brookside, Cherry Street, Utica Square, Route 66, the Pearl District. It kind of loops, especially for visitors to downtown, to be able to access several of our kind of urban commercial districts, all in a convenient loop, but we thought was important. It also adds Sunday service to our existing bus service. Right now, the buses just don't run on Sundays, which is unacceptable. The city of Tulsa ranks almost at the very bottom of our of cities 250,000 people and larger.
Right.
We're at the bottom of that list in terms of public transportation offering. And we know that we need to be making investments into the future. Future generations want cities that are automobile independent, that have sound public transportation offerings. We also have an aging population that we need to be mindful of in the city of Tulsa. And creating access to amenities for our citizens we thought was critical. That 11th Street line will connect people to education, to health care, to things like groceries in ways that we've never done before in our public transportation system. So it's a really huge step forward.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you to talk a little bit more about the BRT, but the idea, as I understand it, is there'll be some nice, good infrastructure, some nice stations. People could move rapidly along those corridors, right? I mean, is that the idea, to have reliable, rapid transportation along those corridors? Is that the basic idea?
Exactly. When you've got a transportation system that's unreliable or that has such a long headway between stops, if you can't just show up at a bus stop and reasonably expect that a bus is going to come by within 15 minutes, then you have to do some pretty strategic planning about how to use the transportation system. On those two lines and in that downtown circulator, citizens will be able to essentially show up at a bus stop on those routes knowing that a bus is going to come within 10 to 15 minutes. The kiosks, the bus stops will be nicer. They'll have digital displays that show the bus schedule and where it's coming next. You'll be able to purchase a ticket on site and just walk right onto the bus when the bus shows up. The boarding is level boarding from the bus station right onto the bus, no stepping up steps onto the bus. So it just makes it more convenient for citizens, especially handicapped citizens and seniors who have difficulty kind of navigating our existing bus system. It really is transformational for our public transportation network to have these two major trunk lines. They'll still interface with the rest of the system, but on the two major trunks, there will be complete and total reliability. You'll know that those lines are going to come quickly.
Right. So what did you end up getting for your transportation hub? I know there's a little bit of money in the package for that. Where does that stand right now?
Well, I think there was pretty solid agreement amongst local transportation advocates and elected people that as we look into the future of transportation in the city of Tulsa, we've got to be thinking about how all of these things interface with one another. And I mean everything from potentially passenger rail, especially intercity passenger rail that will go from maybe Tulsa to Oklahoma City, all the way to things like bike share and pedestrian access around downtown. So by putting all of these transportation amenities into one facility, you really do empower Tulsans and visitors to Tulsa to get about on basically the method of their choosing. So you could fly into Tulsa, take a train or a bus into the center of the universe transportation hub, walk to any number of our downtown districts or to your hotel, check out a bike in a bike share program and ride it around downtown, or hop in an Uber car or a taxi cab or what have you. All of those things being in one place really does expand our mobility options as a community.
So what will this fund in the Vision package? What is it? Just an examination of where it might be, or how? What's that going to pay for in the Vision package as far as that program goes?
Yeah, great question. And there's about $14 million towards the beginnings of what will be ultimately a bigger project than that. At least I think we anticipate as much. But it allows us some money to leverage for federal grants. There are a myriad of opportunities in terms of federal transportation grants, but you've got to have money in your account to be able to leverage it towards those grants. So we wanted to have money in our account to be able to even ask the feds for the money to help with the transportation grant. Things like land acquisition, master planning, all of those types of things. We wanted to have funding, early in place. The facility will include amenities like parking garages and things like that. So things that aren't necessarily flashy, but that are critical to our transportation system and our network in downtown and beyond.
So this helps you like identify potentially where it might be and the feasibility.
That's right. Gets us started.
Okay.
And lets us like start applying for those grants, acquiring land if needed, and starting to do the work of consolidating our infrastructure into one place.
Okay. Now, the third piece is economic development has a bunch of, as you know, because you're a big fan of the Vision Minute videos, we visited all these different
I can't stop
programs.
watching
I know you can't.
the Vision Minute videos.
Exactly.
You're doing a great job.
Thanks. But it's been interesting to go through, to visit all these people in different, parts of the community, and there's a lot of neat programs out there I found to be very interesting. One that gets a lot of attention, of course, and I think we should touch on, is the proposal for 2 dams in the Arkansas River. Give people briefly a sense of what that component is, and explain to them the contingency you guys have in place for the South Tulsa Jinx Dam.
Okay. The largest investment in the economic development portion, that's Proposition 3, is for the Arkansas River Corridor. The biggest pieces of that are 2 lakes, one that's a South Tulsa Lake, one that's a redoing of the dam at Zinc Lake and basically enlarging the Zinc Lake. So we have what's the Zinc Lake and then the South Tulsa Lake that is yet to be named.
Right.
Maybe it will be named after Kevin Canfield one of these days.
Yes.
Each of those lakes is 3.5 to 4 miles long from the dam to where the water backs up, 8 to 10 feet of depth, making it navigable for boats. So I think we expect to see marinas on those lakes, not for like heavy yachts. You'll have to keep your yacht somewhere else, but paddle boats and kayaks and those types of things. Small watercraft will be able to navigate and recreate on each one of those 2 lakes. So if nothing else, it creates 2 new outdoor recreational amenities for Tulsans. But I think we all anticipate it to be much more than that. But that would be, the immediate impact for Tulsans is 2 new places to engage in outdoor activities within our city limits. Obviously, we expect there to be some waterfront development at each of those lakes, but for the most part, we've worked to ensure on the front end that the park space is protected and that any development that happens on the waterfront is in specific targeted areas and that it doesn't adulterate the river park's amenities. So I think there's been a lot of care taken to make sure that whatever development happens right on the waterfront is strategic, that it's important to adding to the amenity and not detracting from it. But I think we also hope, and kind of the motivation for it, is that we build these amenities inside the core of our community, and it just adds more incentive for people to live in Tulsa and to stay in Tulsa.
Right.
We're always going to be competing with suburban growth. Inner city has trouble, not just in Tulsa, but across the country, competing with the suburbs.
Right.
Perceived better schools, more bang for the buck in the houses, all of these types of things that the suburbs have going for them. So what happens is that core cities, especially in a state where sales tax revenue is how we fund our local municipalities, we have to be thinking of things that cause people to want to develop inside the inner city, to live inside the city limits of Tulsa. And these types of amenities, like having a developed and having inner city lakes for recreation and fun, and even housing along the waterfront, I think we all considered that to be a worthwhile investment.
Right.
The South Tulsa Lake that you asked about has partners, proposed partners in the city of Jinx and in the Creek Nation. And we knew going into the conversation that it was somewhat unlikely to have assurances from both of those parties that they would participate. So what we did was created scenarios in our ordinance that allow for their participation or not, and to make sure that the taxpayer dollars are protected in either of those scenarios. So should the Creek Nation, for example, choose not to participate with their own funding towards the river project by the end of this calendar year, then the funding that City of Tulsa voters approve, hopefully, would then roll over to the maintenance fund for the Zinc Dam. The best case scenario, scenario A we'll call it, is that Jinx passes their vote in their city and that the Creek Nation, after we've passed ours, says yes, we'd like to participate. And then they fund what we're asking is the River Corridor Maintenance Endowment. So they would fund ongoing maintenance of both dams in the River Corridor with their donation towards the project. So we've kind of made sure that whichever scenario happens, that dollars are protected and that we get the best.
Let me ask you if I understand this right, just because there's a lot of information there. My understanding is, bottom line, there will be a maintenance fund for the zinc dam, which Tulsans will be voting on, either scenario, whether Jinx or the Creek Nation votes in favor of this or not, chooses to participate for the South Tulsa Dam, right? So there's going to be funding for the zinc dam maintenance regardless. And in South Tulsa and Jinx, that project is dependent on residents of Jinx passing their vision renewal and the Creek Nation or some other entity participating as well. And should that happen, the South Tulsa Jinx one would go forward. Is that right? And in that case, there would be, again, maintenance for that bridge or dam as well, right? I mean,
that is correct.
I think it's important that people understand, because it's something that I know GT Bynum has been frustrated by. There will be maintenance money for both dams if they both are approved.
That is correct.
Okay. Talk briefly, and then I'm going to ask you a few questions from folks who are opposed to this, just certain things. The underlying notion for this has been, sitting through these meetings, you wanted to create a package that, as you mentioned earlier, would engender sales tax revenue, right? I mean, that's the idea. Explain why that's so important to the community.
Well, the state of Oklahoma is the only state in the country that requires its local municipalities to fund themselves primarily on sales tax revenue.
Right.
And I know people find it hard to believe that Oklahoma would do something different than everyone else in the country, but that's part of our state's constitution. And so elected leaders in Oklahoma municipalities have to be thinking always about sales tax revenue. And whether people like that or not, or whether they think we should or not, it doesn't really matter. The truth of it is, if we don't have people spending dollars in City of Tulsa cash registers, then we're not able to take care of the core functions of the city. Right. So people in Tulsa will often say, why aren't you just focusing on the roads, or why not mow the parks, or whatever things they think we're supposed to be doing. And the reality is, if people don't spend money inside our city limits, we don't have money to pay for police officers and firefighters and to repave the streets. Right. With obviously internet sales increases every year. Obviously, our suburban neighbors are growing communities, providing more local places to shop in their communities than ever before. There was a time 20 or 30 years ago where if you lived in Broken Arrow or Owasso, you probably still did the majority of your shopping inside the city limits of Tulsa. Right. That's just not the case anymore. If you live in Owasso, you can live, work, and play inside the city of Owasso. Those amenities have grown over the last couple of decades, and as it should. But what happens is the core city, which for the most part those people still come to Tulsa to work, they still come to Tulsa for their kids' Saturday basketball tournament, right. Whatever the case, the core city still has to be healthy. And so we have to be thinking about things that inspire people, not just from the suburbs, but from outside of Tulsa County or even from nearby states, to come to Tulsa, stop and stay a while, sleep in our hotels, eat in our restaurants, shop in our retail stores. That we have to be thinking about our city almost like it's a retail store. Right. How do we get people to come here and spend money? And so if you look at the vision proposal, you'll see a pretty consistent theme on the economic development program. You'll see that we're investing in the Gilcrease Museum, the Tulsa Zoo, the Children's Museum, the fairgrounds, a BMX facility that will attract families from all over the country to come to Tulsa and right. stay for a week at a time and stay in our hotels and shop in our restaurants. I'm going to forget several right. of them. There's over a dozen that are just tourism related. I don't mean right. tourism like, put on your Hawaiian shirt with your camera. I mean things that cause people to leave their city to go to another city for some kind of fun or for some kind of experience or for some kind of, convention or things of that nature. So the theme of it is pretty targeted, is to invest in city-owned facilities for the most part. Right. The fairground's a county-owned facility, but these are municipally owned or governmentally owned facilities that we have a responsibility to take care of because they're ours. And so we did, and that's what your list largely looks like. And each of those entities makes a heck of a case that when they are healthy, even when they're as they are today, right. they are what's driving visitors to Tulsa, the zoo and the Gilcrease Museum and those types of things. And so I continue to advocate for us to have a strategic plan for growing our sales tax revenue. In government, it's become popular to talk about efficiency. Right. It's become popular to talk about savings, and I think that's part of the equation. We also have to be talking about the revenue side. How do we as a city stay in business? And for us, that means getting people to come here and spend money in Tulsa. Okay. I appreciate that. Let's talk a little about some of the critics of the plan. I'm just going to bring maybe 2 or 3 things that come up occasionally here. You were at a budget meeting today.
City, as you mentioned, depends on sales tax. It's another tough year. Public safety gets in the ball, well, not in the ballpark, 60% in that neighborhood every year of the general fund.
Right.
And that puts a squeeze on other departments. Some people say, hey, police, fire, they're already getting enough money. Why should we be giving them this permanent tax?
Because we rank in the top 20% nationwide in violent crime. Because when you ask Tulsans what's important to you, they say it's feeling safe. Because when simple things happen, like your car's broken into, or your home is broken into, or something like that, or you get in a car wreck because it takes a police officer 2 or 3 hours to respond, because the high priority crimes have our police officers tied up all over town. We don't have enough manpower to address the issues. People get to decide what kind of community they want to live in. And at the local level, this is where it really hits home.
Right.
Do you want to pay for the service? And if we don't want to pay for the service in the city of Tulsa, if you're okay with it taking 3 hours or 4 hours for a police officer to get to your house after your home's been broken into, fine. Then we'll just not hire new police officers and we'll let it ride.
Okay.
I'm not okay with that. And I don't think the city of Tulsa is okay with that. I think that first proposition is going to pass overwhelmingly, because I think in our community, people are saying, I'm not okay with this level of service. I want more police officers. I don't want to ever be put on hold when I call 911. If my home catches on fire, or if I have a heart attack on my living room floor, I want a first responder to be here within 5 minutes. People expect a level of service. People want a level of service. And so we're giving people with Proposition 1 the opportunity to pay for a better level of service as it relates to public safety. And I guarantee you that proposition will pass, because it's at the top of Tulsan's priority list.
Okay. Some have objected to giving TPS or Langston, these public institutions which have other funding sources. What's the argument for including them in the package?
Well, I don't think that anything has a higher impact on the vitality of a community than its ability to educate its citizens. And I mean that from its 4-year-olds that haven't started kindergarten yet, all the way to adults that are going back to school to get a degree while they work. And I think that we can look at our educational offerings in the city of Tulsa, and there are areas where we shine. There are areas where we make do with not much. But if we want to look into the future and see a city that's strong and that's vibrant and that's healthy, then we have to be making investments in education. We cannot, it's been proven, we cannot leave that to the state. We cannot leave that to these individual funding sources to take care of all of our needs there. When we have our conversations with Tulsa Public Schools and they tell us, hey, look, it's not safe for our kids to walk to school or to ride a bike to school in most Tulsa neighborhoods, that's not Tulsa Public Schools' problem. That's a community problem.
Right.
And I think we all have a responsibility to help solve that problem. And that's what they did. They said it's not safe. So we've got millions of dollars in this package dedicated to making it safer for Tulsa kids to get to school. For Langston and for TCC, TCC's program is for a workplace readiness program. We look at Tulsa and our statistics do not shine that we have a ready workforce for employers. If we want to be able to attract businesses to Tulsa, we have to be able to show them we've got a capable workforce in our community. And for things like Langston, we supported Langston in Vision 2025. The facility that we are funding in Vision Tulsa right now is for their expanded nursing school. It's no mystery. It's in the paper quite a bit. The media covers it often. That Tulsa has a shortage of healthcare professionals in our community. We want to be a healthier community. We want to make sure that we've got adequate number of nurses in our community. And so funding Langston, which isn't just a school that trains nurses, it's a school in North Tulsa that trains nurses. And I think it represents one of the crown jewels of that community and offers a great deal of hope for people in North Tulsa that they can attain a career and be successful in Tulsa. So none of those things, while they might have their own funding source, none of them are sitting on huge piles of money. They all have the same kind of economic struggles, and we have to decide as a community, and voters will decide, is it important to us to make investments in education? I think, without a doubt, the city of Tulsa would stand up and say, yes, it is.
Okay. We're running late, but I want to ask you this question in a different way. You've already touched on it, but opponents of this package had a press conference in front of a city pool, and they said, take care of these core services first. You guys want us to spend all this money, take care of these core services, open these pools. What's your response to that?
Well, I've kind of already addressed it. The city is sales tax revenue funded. And when we don't generate enough sales tax revenue in the city, we're not going to cut public safety services. And so what happens? The parks get cut. All of those types of things that citizens say are important to them, like having swimming pools in the community. Those things rely on sales tax revenue.
Right.
It's pretty plain and simple. So you've got a council that looks at your budget. We deal with the budget every year, and we have that conversation today in a meeting. How do we generate enough sales tax revenue to take care of all of the amenities of the city? So they can act like we're investing in toys or in frivolous things, but if you're not investing in your moneymakers in a sales tax revenue funded city, then you're losing. And we will just keep losing if we do that. If we're not okay with raising a tax, which those same people, I guarantee you, are not okay with that,
Right.
then they have to be okay with making investments in things that lead to a healthier budget. And the things that lead to a healthier budget are a vibrant Gilcrease Museum and a vibrant Tulsa Zoo and Convention Center and Mohawk Soccer Complex and County Fairgrounds. When those things are strong, we'll be attracting people into Tulsa to spend money here, and that's how we'll pay for core services for the long run.
Okay. Thanks, Blake.
Thank you.
George, thanks for coming by.
Glad to be here.
You doing okay?
Been a little cool earlier,
Yeah.
warming up under these lights.
Tell us about your group. Citizens for a Better Tulsa has been around a while. Tell us what the organization's all about.
Happy to, Kevin. It's Citizens for Better Vision, was formed back in 2012 to serve as an opposition group to Dewey Bartlett's Vision 2.0 early renewal of the county vision tax. Not single-handedly, but our group helped lead a coalition to oppose that tax, and it was defeated by the Tulsa County voters, as they had defeated an earlier 2007 river tax. Both of the 07 and 2012 tax issues had river development
Right.
or low water dams as central features, as does this city tax that we're facing.
Okay. So what is your opposition generally to this latest incarnation of the vision?
Well, our coalition has people of diverse opinions, diverse backgrounds, and we're not Democrat, Republicans, conservative, or liberal. We're all of the above. So people come to the coalition for their own reasons, opposing different aspects of the tax. Some people may just be anti-tax because they feel like they're taxed too much. That's certainly a component, but you have people that may feel like some of the north side allies that we have in the North Tulsa community have felt like there's very little in the Vision Capital Projects list that does anything for their community, which is so really devastated with closed factories, closed businesses.
Right.
They don't even have a grocery store. And their infrastructure there is older, and so it needs much more repair with streets and street lights out of disrepair. So the group that we have is really a coalition, in that people have different opinions as to why they want to volunteer to help defeat this new tax increase.
Can you give people maybe some of you mentioned the North Tulsa, some North Tulsa residents who are opposed to the package because they don't believe that there's enough in it for that community.
Sure.
What are the other objections to the plan?
Well, we could take the three propositions individually and talk about them. Two of the three are permanent tax increases, which weren't components of the earlier two river development taxes, low water dams being central. There's a permanent police and fire tax that will be forever. So that's one of the reasons we call this the Vision Forever tax, because it will be forever. We've never had a permanent police and fire tax, but the police and fire budget has grown so exorbitantly that it's eating over 100% of the city's 2-cent sales tax that's used for operations. The city's literally living on fees and fines, but most prominently, the city is living, for operating purposes, is living on water department profits, because the police and fire budgets eat 100% of the 2-cent sales tax. That's the main operating source for the city. You notice that your water rates have gone up 43% since Dewey became mayor, and your sewer rates have gone up 56%. That's much, much higher than any feasible inflation rate. So the city is literally living on water department profits. That is the city operations.
My understanding is that the general fund is two-thirds of it is funded through sales tax. I don't believe the water department pays into the general fund a significant amount. They pay
everything
a fee
is consolidated.
No, it's not consolidated. Everything.
The total operating picture of spending and income has a consolidated statement for the city's reporting.
But the general fund is the city's operations fund, and it's what pays for police and fire and the parks department that you were talking about was getting squeezed.
Well, we're parsing words in that.
Well, no, I don't
it is a fact that of the 2-cent sales tax intended for operations, and we have a third penny sales tax already for capital improvements. It's been a temporary tax since 1980. The 2-cent sales tax intended for operations is supplemented by fees and fines and grants and water department profits. That is.
But you
how
said to
they
subsidize it. I don't believe it's a significant portion of what's used to run the operations.
Well, if you are eating by the police and fire union 107% of the city's 2-cent sales tax for operations, I would challenge your other guest, Blake, how do you fund the rest of the departments?
Well, where do you get your 107% figure from?
From the city's budget and from Bill Martinson's analysis that he did as a city councilor. Bill's a CPA and a company CEO.
He's a former city councilor.
Yes, he looked into this in detail, and he analyzed the growth of the police and fire budget over a 40-year period. Their police and fire budget increased from eating 60% of the 2-cent sales tax to 100%, right. And it's actually above 100%. If you're eating all of the 2-cent sales tax just for police and fire, where is the rest coming from? It's not coming from a magical money tree. It's coming from fees, fines, and water department profits.
So we could agree that, and I think there's no doubt about it, that the police and fire, public safety expenses in general, have been eating up more of the general fund. So
yes.
How does that relate to your objection to this plan, this Vision Tulsa plan?
We had demonstrable proof that public safety was not endangered when Mayor Bartlett, early in his first term of office, laid off indefinitely 120 police officers with no expectation of when they would be recalled. That was a 15% reduction in staff. And was public safety imperiled? No. Could it have been imperiled? No. As mayor, his first responsibility is public safety. And he would have had to close other departments or reduce them to a skeletal level before cutting police and fire. So he demonstrably showed we were safe, public safety was not endangered with 15% fewer officers. 120 officers were laid off.
That was a short period of time that they were laid off.
It was indefinite. He didn't know whether it would be a week, a month, or a year, nor did the officers.
When the actual layoffs, I don't believe, lasted for very long. And second of all, how do you know that public safety wasn't endangered?
Was there blood in the streets? Did they call the National Guard out?
No, but that doesn't necessarily indicate that the city didn't
could
become
not
more
have legally endangered public safety without first cutting departments that did not involve public safety. For instance, the Parks Department or the zoo or public transportation. All other departments would have had to been drastically cut before public safety was endangered. It's the priority, number one, of a city government is public safety. Parks are not the number one priority. So other departments would have had to been cut to the bone, but he did not. He laid off 120 police officers with no threat to public safety. So if you look at the actual facts and figures, our public safety wasn't endangered. The police and fire budget has grown uncontrollably.
So are you saying they don't need the money? Is that what your point is?
I'm saying we have too expensive a police force with multiple mayors going back a generation to win the support of the police and fire unions, have shoveled more and more pay and benefits to our policemen so that the average pay of a policeman in Tulsa is over $100,000 a year. Pay and benefits is over $100,000.
Where's that number come from?
From the city budget.
There's a number, they have listed in there what the average.
They have the number of employees, and they have their wages, and they have their benefits.
So
One
you
of our
just
people has
calculated
looked
it?
at it.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
that's numbers that a number
it's,
you
it's the
surmise
city's
from,
number. It's the
well,
city's
but you
numbers.
used city numbers to come to that
Well,
determination.
it's an average.
Yeah,
You,
okay.
You take pay and benefits divided by the number of personnel that are sworn.
Right.
That's the police budget.
Okay.
For the average for police, it's an arithmetic average.
Okay. How about, so that's the police, that's your position on that. What about transportation and street maintenance, that piece
Well,
of the
let's
puzzle?
finish up with the firemen.
Well, we don't have a lot of time.
Okay. Well, the firemen are overstaffed as well because 75% of their fire runs are for EMS purposes, not to fight fires. On average, they fight 3 fires per day. That's about 1,100 a year. That's hardly a firestorm. They're
Right.
mostly doing EMS runs. Proposition 2 has some appealing features to the voters in that they like to have their roads maintained. I challenge the voters to think back, why did they quit maintaining the roads? That decision was made several mayors ago, where a mayor decided to end street maintenance, to disassemble the street maintenance department that used to have 240 employees and has 63 now, has no full-time road paving crews, no full-time crack filling crews. So rather than throw more money at a problem that was created by the management of the city, let's step back and look at what the root cause is. They ended the street maintenance program.
But how do you fix the streets, though? Let's say everything you said is true.
You won't
that
fix
they dismantled it. Don't they have to invest money to get the streets back up to where they were?
You will not have the money for street maintenance absent these votes. Let's just put this vision tax to the side. The reason they don't have money for street maintenance is the police and fire budget is eating the city's 2-cent sales tax for operations. There's no way around it. It's over 100% of the city's 2-cent sales tax being consumed. So they want to raise taxes permanently, both for police and fire, who are already eating 100% of the city's 2-cent sales tax, and add additional permanent tax for street maintenance and bus transit. But the reason they want to raise that is because they haven't fixed the root cause that our police and fire are too extravagantly paid with pay and benefits.
Okay. No, I understand. Okay.
That's the root
Right,
cause.
I got you.
I like to look at root causes, Kevin, not just throw more money at a problem that the management of this city created.
Okay. I want to say one thing. I know there's city officials who disagree with you that it's a tax increase. We don't have time to go down that road, but
It's $884 million increase in taxes.
Well,
that seems like an increase.
it's an existing tax that if all the propositions pass, the tax rate won't change. I mean, that we could argue over whether
It's a county
what's
tax that
permanent.
expires. It's a city tax that they're trying to replace it with. It is $884 million minimum in new taxes and spending.
Right.
This will grow
but
government.
it's not a tax increase, is my point.
It's an $884 million tax increase. If the people from the city promoting this that like to parse words, does the tax rate increase? Well, this tax rate is the rate that's being captured from the county. So that's a half-truth, but it's $884 million minimum.
They're
in
going
new
to collect
spending.
$884 million in
Minimum,
new taxes.
minimum. It could be $1 billion because there's no cap on this tax. And we found out in Vision 2025 that was estimated at $585 million, they've actually overcollected at least $60 million to this month.
Right, but they had a process that dictated how those funds would be spent, and they're following that process. The public going into that vote knew that if there were additional funds, that a process was in place to distribute those. But let's
I don't
move
know
on.
what they knew they voted
Well,
for.
no, it was part of what was presented to the
Well,
voters.
they were told a lot of things in Vision 2025. They were told that the
George,
arena would cost one amount and it cost 50% more.
It didn't cost 50% more.
That's what
It cost.
That's what
I
GT
checked with the
Bynum
county
said.
in anticipation of this interview.
That's what GT
And
told us.
The only overrun in that package or in the BOK Center was 45.5 million.
You're
to
leaving
adjust.
out the $24 million reserved for contingency that was pre-funded.
Well, we're getting into the weeds, but there's a disagreement. I can tell you this: no one
GT
believes.
Bynum told me it was a 50% overrun at the Timothy Baptist Church on March 1st. Kevin,
Well,
is he a liar?
I spoke to the people who managed that project, and the estimate was about 228. It went over by 45 million.
They
and
had
that was,
another
again,
24 million reserved for contingency pre-funded. You're leaving that out. That ate up the reserve.
But even if that number was accurate, that's 70 million, and the package or the building was 220 million. That's not 50%, is my point. But let's move on.
What is it?
Well, it might be 20% or something.
I thought it was 30%, Kevin, but GT told me it was actually 50 because of the 24 million reserve for contingency that was gobbled up with the overruns.
Okay.
That's your
All right,
city
we'll just have to
councilor.
disagree on that.
It's you're disagreeing with GT. He gave you the number.
It won't be the first
not
time,
me.
but that's okay.
Get him on and get him straighten us out.
Let's talk a little about your organization. How many folks are in it?
Well, we are a volunteer organization where people contribute different amounts of time and effort. No one's on a payroll. No one's getting paid 1 cent. Actually, it's a cost for us to expend our free time to work and educate the voters as to why this is a bad tax. It's at the wrong time we found out that one of our major employers is just going to go bye-bye.
But how many people are in the organization? That's what I've got to get back to.
I don't know.
Okay.
It varies based on what event we're organizing for, what activity. We have a core leadership team that's very devoted to this. And then we have other allies in the coalition that work on different aspects. So we don't have a personnel head count. No one's on the payroll. So the number of volunteers that contribute vary by event.
So how many are contributed to this?
I don't know the total number, but I know who the leadership team is.
Okay.
And I also don't consider it germane because...
Well, it is germane because you're speaking on behalf of a group, and I think people
am.
watching or listening would like to know how many people are in your group.
Well, I will say that we had a kickoff press conference on March 15th that you attended, and you got to see some of the leadership team speak.
Right.
The people who spoke at the press conference that were scheduled speakers, there were 5 of us, were part of the leadership team. Others who are volunteers showed up to show their support, to hold signs, and to encourage us to engage the press at the press conference. So it's not a secret, but there's a more important secret than how many people are in Citizens for a Better Vision. Here's a secret I would like you to go to work on as an investigative reporter. How much is being raised and spent by Citizens for Tulsa to pass this tax?
Well, that's something we'll look into. Let me ask you this.
Good
you
luck.
said you don't know.
I tried to look
you can't
into
tell
it.
me
It's
how
a
many people
secret.
are in the organization. This was established in
I'm
2012.
not the personnel director.
Well, you're familiar with the organization. You're a spokesperson.
I'm familiar with the leadership team.
You should be able to answer questions about how many people are in the organization.
It varies based on if you're counting our allies and other members of the coalition.
Well,
and
can you give me a range?
Oh, probably a few hundred people.
Okay.
That participate to different degrees in this effort.
Okay. You started in 2012 in opposition to Vision 2. One of your members, Michael Bates, has been is involved in this campaign. Michael's been objected to the 2003 Vision 2025 package, and your organization, Citizens for a Better Tulsa, has opposed Vision 2. It opposed the county tax for.
Only 2
the county tax for.
No, some of the members may have.
Okay. But I guess what I'm getting at
to
is.
correct you, Citizens for a Better Vision was formed in 2012 in opposition to Dewey's early renewal of the county tax. He was trying to renew it 4 years early, and that was the original purpose. Then we got the band back together,
right,
so to speak, for this effort, this Vision Forever tax.
But let me ask you this. And
I don't believe there were other activities in that dormant period that
well,
were
there was a county
tax-related.
tax I think some of your members were opposed to.
That's true.
And that's what I wanted to ask
you.
you.
There were some people who were opposed to it,
right,
such as myself, and I got yelled at by Karen Keith, and I got yelled at by Chief Deputy Tim Albon. Tim's
but let me ask you,
another career.
Because we don't have much time. Some people perceive your group as a bunch of people who are opposed to everything that's promoted by city and county government. Is that true? Is that accurate?
We're not opposed to good government. We're not opposed to transparency and accountability in government. And we believe that we can have a better government without raising taxes again and again and again. The city hasn't begun to look at measures of efficiency. For instance, IMSA and the fire department could easily be run as one organization like most major cities run. There's so much room for improvement. Few major cities have a 100% police car take-home policy that has cost Tulsa taxpayers in capital expenditures and operating expenses above $100 million.
And where's that number come from?
It comes from when it started under Mayor Susan Savage, what the capital expenditure of 800 police cars is versus 250 patrol cars that they used to have, because I got to analyze that for Mayor Bill LaFortune. I got the numbers from the city. I was one of the finalists in he had a kind of a suggestion box that he was working toward to get ideas, none of which, to my knowledge, were ever implemented by him. It seemed like more of a PR stunt, ultimately. But I spent a lot of time analyzing city budget numbers and provided two significant recommendations, one on merging the administrative part of IMSA and the fire department should be under the fire department, like most major cities do. And likewise, I recommended that the police car take-home policy is too ruinously expensive for the city to afford.
Okay.
In both operations and in capital.
All right.
It's still taxpayer money.
Well, I appreciate your time. If I give you 20 seconds, not 2 minutes, what's your final pitch on this?
Well, this is not the only tax Tulsa taxpayers will face this year. OU President David Bourne was in Tulsa today to talk about his 1 cent sales tax for education. So if Tulsa taxpayers on April 5th vote this tax in, and David Bourne's tax, who will be on the ballot presumably in November, our tax rate would be 9.517%. Glenpool, which is also part of this tax package for that city, would be at 10.9%.
Okay.
That's
so you're worried that the taxes will go too high. That's the bottom line with that.
I think they're too high right now.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
That's it for today's Listen Frontier. I'm Kevin Canfield. You can watch this video on our website, readfrontier.com. It'll also be on the Center for Creativity's YouTube website. And we appreciate you joining us today. Thank you.